The story begins with a girl named Sang-ji, a 14-year-old junior high school student. Sang-ji is smaller than her friends, but she is very smart, and her academic grades are satisfactory. However, because she often daydreamed and didn't focus when the teacher was explaining lessons in class, her parents were often called to school. When she gets into the same trouble for the 13th time, Sang-ji begs her older brother Sang-yan to come to her school. Sang-yan, who's currently studying at college, refuses, and he's fed up because his younger sister often drags him into trouble. Because of that, he nicknamed Sang-ji the Little Devil. Then Sang-ji cursed all the way home. However, when she arrived home, she got news from her mother that her brother had returned from the dormitory. Sang-ji happily prepared fruit for her brother, hoping that he would help her. However, she instead meets Yan's very handsome friend. Sang-ji begged her brother to help her, but her sweet attitude no longer worked, and Sang-ji finally cried so that her brother would be scolded by their mother. But Sang-ji's efforts were in vain, so a desperate Sang-ji asked Duan Jasoo to pretend to be her older brother and meet her teacher at school. Duan Jasoo didn't refuse, but he also didn't give any certainty, which made Sang-ji wonder whether Jasoo really wanted to help her or not. Time passes, and now Sang-ji is a second-year high school student. When Sang-yan moved to the main campus, he planned to move his belongings to the new dormitory, which turned out to be close to Sang-ji's school. After learning that Sang-yan will help to move his friend's things, Sang-ji offers to help because she hopes to meet Duan Jasoo in the afternoon after school. When Sang-ji goes to help her brother, she finally sees Duan Jasoo. After not seeing him for several years, Duan Jasoo almost doesn't recognize Sang-ji because now she is all grown up and looks very cute. Then Duan Jasoo took Sang-ji to his dormitory, and his roommates welcomed Sang-ji. Well before leaving for his part-time job, Duan Jasoo tells Sang-ji that if she likes his fox doll, then Sang-ji can take it home. But Sang-ji is curious whether the doll was a gift from Jasoo's girlfriend. Fortunately, Jasoo's friends explained that he was too busy working to find a girlfriend, and that day, Sang-ji accidentally left her book on Jasoo's desk. When Jasoo comes back, he borrows Sang-yan's cell phone to talk to Sang-ji about the book. Because Sang-ji had to complete her assignment in the book tomorrow, they agreed to meet at 6 a.m. and Jasoo would accompany Sang-ji to do her homework before going to school. The next day, Sang-ji went to the place they had agreed on and waited anxiously for Jasoo. Sang-ji is worried whether he will come or not. Just like when Sang-ji was in middle school, Sang-ji is so anxiously waiting for Jasoo to come to her school. In the past, Sang-ji was alone waiting in her seat after school. However, she did not see Jasoo coming because she was desperate. She went home mad and accidentally tripped. Then Jasoo appeared and grabbed Sang-ji. But Sang-ji complains that Jasoo came late, and Jasoo immediately apologized to her, and they went to the teacher's office. Jasoo played his role well and listened to the teacher's complaints that Sang-ji always drew when the teacher was teaching in class. Her grades are good, but Sang-ji's teacher hoped her attitude when studying could be improved. However, Jasoo urged Sang-ji to apologize to her teacher, which ultimately made the meeting run well. Back to the present, and Sang-ji thinks that Jasoo is late again. Therefore, she cursed Jasoo over the phone, cursing that Jasoo would never have a girlfriend in his entire life. But then Jasoo surprised Sang-ji from behind. It turned out he came early and even gave Sang-ji a bottle of milk. After that, Jasoo accompanied Sang-ji to do her homework at the bakery, and he also gave her a sweet cake. Sang-ji looked at Jasoo several times while doing her homework until finally she asked about Jasoo's hometown and his vacation plans for the summer. Jasoo just smiled and explained that he is from Yi Town, and he told Sang-ji to finish her homework quickly. Before Sang-ji went to school, Jasoo put a piece of paper in her bag. Apparently, last night, Jasoo peeked at Sang-ji's book and read her writing, which stated that her brother was very annoying. Then Jasoo creates his own narrative with a piece of paper and states that he is happy to see Sang-ji again. When she returned home, Sang-ji's heart pounded when she read the writing. Sang-ji was so happy she folded the paper carefully and kept the bottle of milk Jasoo gave her. Sang-ji can't drink it because she's allergic to milk, but she keeps the bottle. One day, Sang-ji's parents went to their friend's wedding. Sang-yan then invited his sister to go out to lunch with his friends. Sang-ji certainly didn't want to miss this opportunity to meet Jasoo, so she immediately dressed up as beautifully as possible in the car. There was Kienfei, one of Yan's roommates, and Jasoo looked sleepy because he was busy working. Sang-ji secretly watched Jasoo. Then Jasoo, who realized this, asked Sang Ji why she always blushed when she saw him. This annoyed Sang Yan and Chanfei because it seemed that Joshu was a little narcissistic. But the way he flirts with girls is very old-fashioned and outdated, proving that he doesn't have much experience in love. Arriving at the mall, Sang Ji insists that she wants to stay in the car all the way to the parking lot, but Sang Yan told her to go out with the others. Sang Ji feels unwell, and she goes to the toilet. At that time, Joshu saw that there was a blood stain on Sang Ji's skirt, and he quickly walked behind her to cover the stain. Arriving at the toilet, Joshu asks Sang Ji to wait inside and says that he has somewhere to go. Sang Ji noticed there were bloodstains on her skirt when she looked in the mirror, and she felt very embarrassed. Meanwhile, Joshu immediately called Sang Yan. The two of them then bought sanitary napkins and a skirt for Sang Ji and asked a woman to take those things to the toilet. Sang Ji feels very embarrassed and hesitates to come out. But fortunately, Joshu and Sang Yan agree to keep quiet about this incident. Thoughtfully, Joshu poured Sang Ji a glass of warm water. He also separates beef from Sang Ji's food because Joshu knows she is allergic to it. After eating, Joshu helped Sang Ji play the claw doll machine. At that time, Sang Ji could hear her heart beating very fast, and she was even happier when Joshu got a doll for her. Sang Ji remembered the past. That time after Joshu helped her at school, she almost cried when Joshu was about to call Sang Yan to report what happened to her. But Joshu gave up, and finally, he took Sang Ji home while carrying her school bag. Sang Ji's cheeks were red throughout the way home. She felt very happy that day, just like how she felt now. One day, Sang Ji came to a cafe with her friend Genru. She didn't expect that Joshu worked part-time in the cafe. On that day, Sang Ji overheard that Joshu's manager had paid his salary in advance, and it made Sang Ji wonder if Joshu was working part-time because he needs a lot of money. Sang Ji really wants to help him, but she can't do anything. After leaving the cafe, Sang Ji comes to a karaoke place to celebrate the birthday of her friend Zhenshu, who apparently has liked Sang Ji since middle school. And that day, Zhenshu wanted to confess his love to Sang Ji. However, Sang Ji firmly refused and made Zhenshu cry, and apparently, Joshu saw it. He then advises Sang Ji on how to reject other people in a good way. After all, Zhenshu had liked Sang Ji for a long time, and Sang Ji has to respect him. It wouldn't be a good thing if Sang Ji rejected him by hurting his feelings. After that incident, Genru didn't want to talk to Sang Ji anymore. It was revealed that it turned out that Genru likes Zhenshu and was jealous of Sang Jia, who had gotten a love confession from him. In the midst of this confusion, Sang Ji was asked by her teacher to take part in Sports Week. Coincidentally, Sang Yan and Joshu were on the committee for the event because their campus was close to Sang Ji's school. With great care, Joshu put a hat on Sang Ji to protect her from the sun. Another concern was shown by Joshu when Sang Ji repeatedly failed to do the high jump and injured her leg. Joshu even carried Sang Ji into the tent to be treated carefully. Sang Ji was very moved and felt that Joshu treated her better than her own brother. However, Sang Yan also cares about his sister. It's just that he wasn't sensitive enough to understand his sister's feelings. When Sang Ji saw Joshu carefully helping another girl, she felt that he was indeed being kind to everyone. One day after school, Genru suddenly approached Sang Ji and asked her to go somewhere. The two of them wandered around for a long time before Genru finally said that she actually wanted to go to the internet cafe. In fact, their teacher often warned them to be careful when visiting that place because unwanted things often happened there. Genru actually didn't want to go to the internet cafe, but she was bullied by a group of senior girls. She didn't dare to fight back and tried to trick Sang Ji by dragging her into this matter. They then searched Sang Ji's bag and threatened her, telling Sang Ji to bring money tomorrow. Of course, Sang Ji was very disappointed with Shenru, and she finally understood why Zhenru suddenly came to her again. Sang Ji asked Zhenru to go home and explain this problem to her parents. Then Sang Ji walked alone. No matter how sorry Zhenru was, Sang Ji would not accept her apology anymore. Sang Ji's leg injury has not yet recovered, and because Sang Yan has something to do, he asked Jia Su for help to pick up his sister from school. Jia Su immediately looked for Sang Ji after finding out that she was not at school. Unfortunately, Joshu was able to find Sang Ji in an alley near the internet cafe. At that time, Sang Ji didn't want to tell Joshu about her problems because she didn't want to trouble him. But Joshu was too upset to let this happen, and he immediately acted after finding out everything. The next day, Sang Yan, Joshu, and Qianfei came to see the brats who had been bothering Songjae. They were ready to fight if there were men involved, but it turned out they were just a group of girls. Sang Yan was very angry, but he didn't hurt the girls. And the problem was resolved after the girls were given a warning. After what happened, Genru was transferred to another school by her parents. Before leaving, she leaves a letter of apology for Sang Ji full of regret. However, Sang Ji did not say anything to her. She was very disappointed and sad because her friendship had ended in a bad way. Time passed, and Sang Ji's final exam results came out. Even though her grades were quite satisfactory, her grade in physics is still low. Her parents sincerely advised Sang Ji to think carefully about her future, and after seeing this situation, they decided to call a tutor who could help Sang Ji with physics lessons during the winter holiday. Sang Ji is very disappointed after finding out that her tutor is her own brother. During study time, the two of them just fought and hardly did anything to study. In the end, Sang Ji's mother decided to look for someone else. But Sang Ji, who doesn't want to learn, plans that tomorrow she will sneak out. But she immediately gave up her plans after learning that the tutor who would replace her brother was Joshu. Before the lesson begins, Joshu plays games with Sang Yan, and Sang Ji tries to take photos of Joshu secretly. Joshu realized this and posed, which made Sang Ji embarrassed and immediately looked for an excuse to cover up her action. They then begin to learn, and it turns out that Sang Ji doesn't know anything about physics. However, Joshu taught her very well. Sang Ji then asked Joshu why he is studying in this city. Joshu then explained that he wanted to be in the gaming industry and now the city had the most developed gaming industry, so he came here. During the holiday season, Joshu works 4 days a week and spends the remaining 3 days tutoring Sang Ji. On one occasion, he worked too hard and became exhausted while teaching. Sang Ju realized this, allowing him to rest a little longer and carefully covering him with a coat. After giving lessons for several days, Joshu realized that Sang Ji was not interested in physics. So he took Sang Ji to the Science and Technology Museum to increase her interest in physics. This moment made Sang Ji very happy. Apart from getting lots of lessons, she also has the opportunity to do lots of fun things with the person she likes. Later, Joshu shared that he wanted to make his own game and spread happiness to people. He believes that a game can help someone avoid negative things as long as it is used wisely. Sang Ji then said that she would study hard until she could find her own dreams someday. After talking about the future, Sang Ji suddenly asks her not to date. Sang Ji spoke as if she was afraid that Josu's girlfriend would hinder his dreams. But besides that, she was also afraid that Joshu would not be nice to her anymore because Josu had other priorities. However, Joshu refuses that and instead promises to find a gentle girlfriend and will be nice to her. That way, there will be one more person who cares about Sang Jae. Hearing this, Sang Ji agrees, but she asks Joshu to show her his future girlfriend first, and Joshu promises to do so. Time flies, and Chinese New Year arrives. Sang Ji wanted to give Joshu red envelopes, but instead of money, she made New Year's greetings, folded them into little stars, put them in a red envelope, and secretly put them in Joshu's coat. When he came to her house politely, Joshu declined Sang Ji's family's dinner invitation because he had to go back to the dormitory. Joshu spent New Year's Eve in the dormitory alone. While people were happy, he actually received a surprising call from the hospital saying that his father was suffering from a lung infection and needed immediate surgery. Joshu returned to his hometown to solve this problem without telling anyone. And because his college term is almost over, he will return to Nami City for the graduation ceremony. After school starts again, Sang Ji receives a gift from Joshu. It was at that time she learned that Joshu had returned to his hometown. Sang Ji is very happy with Joshu's gift of a stuffed dog, which she thinks is very similar to Sang Yan. Sang Ji wanted to send another gift in return, but Joshu refused. They made an appointment over the phone to meet at the graduation ceremony, and Sang Ji will use this opportunity to give Joshu a gift. On the day of the graduation ceremony, Sang Ji came with her father, while her mother couldn't come because she was ill. Sang Ji's eyes lit up when she saw Joshu wearing an academic dress awkwardly. Sang Ji immediately gives Joshu flowers. Then Joshu said goodbye to his classmates, and it might be difficult for them to meet again in the future. Sang Ji is afraid that she won't be able to see Joshu again. However, Joshu emphasized that he would come back to see Sang Ja in his free time. Not wanting to miss this happy moment, Joshu asked his friend to take a photo of himself with Sang Ji, whom he introduced as his younger sister. Sang Ji is a little disappointed because Joshu only sees her as a younger sister, but she was also happy because it proved that Joshu was no longer a stranger in life. Unfortunately, that day, Sang-ji didn't find the right moment to give the gift she had prepared to Joshu. Like the video and subscribe. Comment below if you want the part 2 of this video.